Welcome to Midnight Disclosure. Tonight, late into the evening, and as the world quiets down and your mind starts to wander, we invite you into the fringes of history. Fringes that are complete with tales of otherworldly lights in the heavens, unexplained encounters, and voices that were suppressed before they could be heard. They are these elusive UFO experiences and extraterrestrial tales the press didn't care about. Lie back, shut your eyes, and visualize the desert night. The air is quiet, the stars cutting against the dark sky. Out here, silence stretches on forever, but now and then, silence is shattered not by noise, but by light. One of the first forgotten sightings occurred in 1948, only a year after You know about Roswell. It was the most well-known UFO crash in history. But here's what you probably don't know came afterward. A year later, in July, in the small New Mexico town of Aztec, people were whispering about another crash. A big disc, metal, something never seen before, reportedly fallen in the desert mesa, 30 feet wide, witnesses claimed. Some reported seeing military trucks swarm to the scene in hours, engines roaring through silent canyons, and within the morning, nothing was left. The newspapers avoided it. The officials denied it, but those who lived nearby never forgot the glow they saw that night. A glow that lit the horizon like a second moon. Imagine standing there in the silence, watching the desert sky as something enormous streaks downward, burning without fire, falling without sound. You'd wonder what just entered our world. The press never reported the story beyond rumors, labeling it gossip, labeling it rubbish. But rumors are like embers, which continue to smolder long after the fire is extinguished, and the Aztec encounter became one of those embers, which were passed from lip, to bizarre to be credible, to tenacious to disappear. But let's move on to the 1960s. An era in which America gazed up at the heavens with rockets and astronauts. But beneath the headlines of space exploration, other tales did occur quietly in the shadows. Consider the testimony of Lonnie Zamora, a cop in Socorro, New Mexico, April 24, 1964. He wasn't hunting someone from outer space that day. He was pursuing a speeding vehicle when a roar rocked the desert sky. He pulled over, thinking a local dynamite shack had blown up, but what he witnessed was no shack in the distance. A shining object rested on the ground, an egg-shaped thing with landing struts beneath it. Next to it, two small people hurried, clad in what appeared to be white coveralls. As Lonnie got closer, the ship rose with a blast of fire. It imparted no heat, no burning. It moved silently, hovered, then blasted into the air with impossible velocity. Lonnie's testimony rocked Project Blue Book, the Air Force's official UFO investigation program. Unlike other witnesses, he was a trained observer, held in respect, trusted, and he was afraid. He never wanted to be famous. In fact, he wished he hadn't seen it. The media covered it cursorily, then dropped it. But behind closed doors, investigators referred to it as one of the most credible cases they'd ever come across. Imagine it now. A single police officer, standing in the dust, seeing something rise from the desert floor. Not an airplane, not a helicopter, something different altogether. And then imagine the quiet after it's gone. The still desert keeping a secret no headline would ever sustain. Stories like Zamora's remind us that the most powerful encounters are not the loudest. They're quiet moments, glimpses, things seen when no one else is looking. And often, those are the stories the media ignores. Now, let's drift again. This time across oceans. In 1976, Tehran, Iran, was illuminated with fear. Police lines were filled with civilian reports of unidentified lights in the sky. Lights so intense, they matched the stars, moving with impossible accuracy. The Iranian Air Force mobilized jets to intercept. What happened went on to become one of the best documented UFO encounters in history. As one pilot closed in, his controls froze. Instruments went dead, weapons failed. The instant he broke off chase, everything was normal again. Another pilot saw it too. These were not rumors. These were trained military personnel, their experiences recorded in official reports. Even the U.S. Defense Intelligence Agency has quietly acknowledged it was an outstanding example of a UFO encounter. And yet, the story didn't even come close to Western headlines, eclipsed by politics, by war, by anything more convenient to explain. But the desert night recalled, the sky recalled, and those pilots shaken, humbled, recalled. Close your eyes and visualize their perspective. A shining object, brighter than a star, floating silently above the city, and then visualize the terror as your instruments go dark, your guns useless. As if the very vehicle in front of you reached into your cockpit and grabbed the controls. What do you say? To whom do you say it? The media went on, but the truth remained in secret documents, waiting for the few willing to seek it out. These are the tales we float into tonight. Tales half buried, half denied, but never lost. Tales the media left behind, but which won't fade from the minds of those who witnessed. And as we move farther off, recall, the quiet of the desert is not emptiness, it's a canvas. And on that canvas, lights have painted realities the world was not yet ready to see. This is Midnight Disclosure, and tonight you walk that canvas with us. We delve further into the tales the world was not supposed to hold. Tales of unrecognizable forms against the sky, of meetings hidden beneath newsprint, and of witnesses who never wanted to be believed, just recalled. The Cold War loomed over the world during the 1980s. Every light in the sky was suspect potentially a missile, perhaps a spy plane, and yet some lights did not act like missiles or planes. Outside an American Air Force base in Rendlesham Forest, England, during December of 1980, guards witnessed something that would trouble them for the remainder of their lives. It was shortly after midnight when unfamiliar lights fell into the trees. Believing an airplane had crashed, security patrols approached. What they discovered was no crash. Instead, a shining object lay among the pines, triangular, metallic, emanating colors like melted glass. As they approached, their radios crackled with static. One guard reached out and touched its surface. He later described strange symbols etched into the craft glyphs that looked almost ancient. Then, as suddenly as it appeared, the object rose silently, weaving between the trees before vanishing into the night sky. For the next 2 nights, the lights reappeared. Even high-ranking officers checked, documenting what happened in memoranda and sound tapes that would eventually be made available to the public. The British Defense Ministry dismissed it as of no defense significance, but for the soldiers who stood in the forest, looking into an aircraft that provided no noise, it was a reality that could never be forgotten. Shut your eyes and imagine it, a dark woods. Still, except for the sound of your own breathing, then a light, living, radiating colors. Your hand extends, your fingers touch cold metal, and you know in an instant, you are not seeing something constructed on Earth. The press reported it for a moment, then forgot. But the woods did not dot. Not all encounters occur in secret. Some roar across the sky in daylight. Let's travel to 1986. A Japanese airliner, Flight 1628, was flying over Alaska on a routine cargo flight. The pilots reported odd lights shadowing their plane. They initially suspected another plane, but as the lights approached, their size became impossible to miss. Captain Kenju Terayuchi, a seasoned pilot, spoke of a huge vehicle, so enormous it towered over his Boeing 747 Black silhouetted against the dark sky. For almost 50 minutes, the object tracked their aircraft, moving with a precision no recognizable plane could possibly achieve. At some point, air traffic control verified the radar contact. Something giant was flying alongside them. Finally, the plane disappeared into the darkness. The FAA looked into it. Captain Terayuchi was suspended for talking too much, and the press dropped the story in favor of sweeter headlines, but the reality was recorded in flight histories, transcripts, and radar records. Imagine being such a pilot, your hands gripping the controls, your eyes on the horizon, with a vehicle the size of a city block floating in silence alongside you. No noise, no wings, no engines, just a silhouette across the stars, keeping pace with you like a predator weighing whether to attack. Would you ever rest again? Some tales, however, occur not in the air, but nearer the Earth. Interactions, so intimate they approach the unthinkable. In a schoolyard in rural Zimbabwe in 1994, more than 60 children came forward to report having witnessed a silver disc land among the trees during recess. The children described small creatures, emerging figures, with huge heads and black eyes. The children indicated that the creatures communicated not through words, but through thoughts. A message, brief but insistent: humanity needs to take care of the Earth. Interviewed in turn by investigators, including Harvard psychiatrist John Mack, their accounts were identical, their feelings raw. 20 years on, most remain adamant about what they witnessed, and yet the tale received barely a mention in the headlines. Western media brushed it off as a curiosity, then looked away, but the children never did. Imagine being there as a child, your world still uncomplicated, your faith still innocent, when suddenly you notice a disc lying in the grass and creatures that are unlike people walking towards you. Imagine the terror, the awe, and the words that come to you not through hearing, but mind to mind. The media sidestepped them, but the Earth did not. Every one of these encounters, Rendlesham, Flight 1628, Zimbabwe, spins a thread into the tapestry the world is not meant to view. Each is dismissed, denied, or entombed, and yet the witnesses remain. Men, women, children, pilots, soldiers, civilians. They bear their tales like heavy stones, never wanting to be believed, only never forgetting. And so we ask, why are these stories ignored? Is it because they're too strange? Or because they're too true? The media thrives on control. Narratives are shaped, softened, spun. A strange light becomes a weather balloon. A craft becomes an experimental jet. A witness becomes a dreamer, a fool. And yet, through all the denials, the stories keep slipping through, like water through closed hands. Tonight, as you sink deeper into sleep, recall this: silence does not destroy truth. It merely makes it wait. Wait for nights like this, when voices can be heard again, speaking to us of what they saw, what they touched, what they knew, and were not allowed to speak. And we, here at Midnight Disclosure, are the guardians of those voices. Night, we've wandered through deserts, forests, and schoolyards. We've heard whispers from pilots, children, and soldiers. Each told a story the world was not ready to hear. And yet, the silence of the media could not erase the truth. For truth lingers in memory, in witness, in the night sky itself. As we come to a close on this journey, let us float into the final set of encounters. Stories left on the cutting room floor. Stories buried in archives. Stories born by voices that quaked, but not broke. On one March night in 1997, there were thousands of people gazing up across Arizona. They witnessed lights enormous, quiet, and formed in the shape of a V moving slowly across the desert horizon. It was what became the Phoenix Lights. Witnesses included simple civilians to physicians, to law enforcement officers, even up to the governor. The objects were so numerous, they hid the stars behind them. Some referred to them as a city in the sky floating. 4 hours, the lights hung and floated before they disappeared without noise. The media, they laughed at first, labeled it flares, labeled it misidentification, but the people of Phoenix knew what they saw. Something so big, so obvious, that no one headline could deny it. To this day, decades on, The Phoenix Lights are one of the most well-documented UFO events in history, and yet, the tale still exists in the shadows, shunned by those who are afraid of its meaning. Imagine it. You're in your own backyard. Desert night is quiet. Stars are sharp and distinct. And then the stars themselves start to vanish, consumed by something enormous, quiet, and invisible. You throw back your head. Your breath stops, because overhead hovers something that doesn't belong. Something that doesn't just fly across the sky. It claims it. How do you forget that? A different tale, less familiar. More underground emerged out of Russia in 1989. In the city of Voronezh, several dozen witnesses, including children, reported a UFO had descended upon a park. Descriptions spoke of a huge, glowing spaceship and tall entities emerging, eyes aglow like embers. Some of the witnesses even reported that the entities showed off bizarre abilities, freezing a boy with a glance, then releasing him unharmed. The tale caused international wires for a moment, then disappeared, dismissed as mass hysteria. But the Voronezh children took it into their adulthood, and to this day, some insist it did occur. How many other such stories fell between the cracks? How many were muffled before they could gain traction? And then, there are our soldiers' encounters. In the early 2000s, U.S. Navy pilots off the coast of California reported something they referred to as Tic Tacs oval, white, smooth objects that flew with impossible velocity. The encounters were recorded not only by radar, but by forward-looking infrared cameras. The videos leaked eventually, with objects having no wings, no trail, outmaneuvering fighter jets with ease. For decades, the press paid no attention. The footage spread quietly among scientists, written off as glitches or fakes. Only in recent decades did the Pentagon finally acknowledge the videos were genuine, classifying them unidentified aerial phenomena. But to the pilots who witnessed them, there was no uncertainty. They weren't glitches. They weren't fakes. They were real. Picture being one of those pilots, pursuing a target that goes from being stationary to the speed of thousands of miles per hour in a matter of seconds. Picture locking onto it with your sensors, only to have it appear miles downrange, as if space warped at its whim. The press might not report, the authorities might not confirm, but the sky does not lie. And now, to the crux of the inquiry. Why do the media cover up these stories? Why are some contacts amplified and others suppressed? Perhaps it is fear of ridicule, fear of panic, fear of acknowledging how little in control we really are. Or maybe it is design. Maybe some things are better not known, kept hidden not for us, but from us. Yet, despite every effort to dismiss, the stories remain. They remain because people remember. People saw. People felt the chill of silence after the light vanished. People carried the weight of knowing they'd glimpsed something extraordinary. And you, listening now, are part of that remembering. So tonight, as you fall into dreams, let these voices lead you. The policeman in the desert, stroking a craft inscribed with symbols. The pilot gazing at a huge shadow looming over his cockpit. The children in Zimbabwe, cautioned to tend a planet not our own. The citizens of Phoenix, witnessing the stars vanish beneath a hanging city of lights. These are not stories. They are pieces of a truth the world has yet to confront. At midnight disclosure, we do not solve the mystery. We respect it. We bear it. We speak it back into the darkness, where it belongs. So shut your eyes, breathe deeply, and let the fleeting moments the media attempted to conceal flow through your mind. For although the media might deny, the desert, the forest, the ocean, and the sky they never forget, and neither should we. This has been Fall Asleep Too Rare. UFO encounters and alien stories the media tried to hide. Thanks for coming along with us tonight. Sleep tight, dream profoundly, and keep this in mind: the truth can be elusive, but it is never lost.